Hello, Miami. Welcome to Let's Chat with Disco George. My friends, you know it's that time of year again. Hurricane season's coming up, and I'm sure you probably haven't even thought about hurricane season yet. But you know what, Disco George? He's always planning something, and he wants to help you make sure you save some money and are ready for hurricane season. And the first thing you have to have is an insurance. If you don't have insurance, what are you going to do? So make sure that you know exactly what you have and you plan for the worst always, because the worst thing you could ever find out is that you don't have the proper insurance once you know what hits the fan. My friend, welcome to the show.
George, thank you. Pleasure.
Welcome back, actually.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now. I think it's been 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, man.
Pleasure.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
For sure. Thanks for having me. This is a great opportunity and great always chatting with you.
Well, definitely. And I appreciate you coming because I know you're always very busy. You guys, I call you guys, and even though you guys always pick up, I know that you guys are always inundated because you do all types of policies: auto, RV, motorcycle, home, and which is why we're here today. So, people's policies have gone up, and every time I go to a reunion, a Getty or something, the adults, right? Exactly. They're like, did you get your policy? Did your policy go up 2, 3, 4,000 or more?
Right.
Because I've had people that told me it's gone up $15,000, $20,000.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get Jay Esterson from Jay Esterson Insurance Agency to come in and explain why this jump.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit, is what exactly is like, what creates the actual cost of the policy?
Yeah, those are good questions. Basically, homeowners and flood insurance is it's escalated in the last 5-10 years in South Florida. However, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, and I think this is a good time for us to talk right before hurricane season, especially for our viewers here. Make sure you're really understanding your homeowner's policy, and if you have flood insurance, what that entails. Homeowners insurance is critical. Obviously, it's probably most people's number one asset, and a lot of times they've never reviewed this with their agent. So, one of the things that we do with our clients and everybody that I talk to out there, that even if they're not my client or viewers that we're here talking to today, is make sure you sit down and call your agent and go over your homeowner's policy. It's critical. There's a lot of factors, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that today. The cost has escalated. However, we've seen in the last 2 years some good reform. There's been some good legislation in the Senate and the House, and some things have passed with homeowners. So with saying that, they've changed some stuff with attorney fees, with assignment of benefits. You can't assign benefits anymore. Claims have to be filed from 2 years to 1 year, which is preventing fraudulent claims the longer it goes. There's been a lot of fraud taken out of the system with some of these laws that have passed. With saying that, Citizens Insurance used to be our number one insurer in the state of Florida.
Right.
They have gone through a depopulation. The reason is more carriers have come into the marketplace. When that happens, costs go down. It's a competitive environment. Our agency at Esterson Insurance Group, we represent about 13, 14 carriers. We had 4 or 5 new ones come into the marketplace this year. That has brought down the cost of me being able to shop these products, these homeowner products, among these carriers. And my clients have actually seen a very nice decrease in some of their policies due to us being able to move it around into a carrier that is more competitive than even Citizens or another carrier that maybe wasn't at the right price point. So these changes have been very, very effective in bringing down costs. So, the advice I could give, if I could recommend, is you might be at a price point in your policy. You need to take a look at it and shop it. And you need to go back to your agent and your agency, whoever you do business with on the insurance side, and say, can you look at this for me and do a review? It's critical every year, especially before hurricane season, you review your policy.
Let me ask you, because you said the review.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really matter, like, in what stage of life you're in? When it, like, compared to somebody in their 30s that just bought their home, and they just spent $500,000 on a house that they put no money down or, somebody that's in their senior years that, is that something that maybe you account for a change for like deductibles and stuff like that?
No, not as much. Now, we talk about the auto side, automobile insurance. That's a little bit, you get into the liability portion, and age does matter based on assets. When it comes to homeowners, it's an asset that you have purchased. You have to have the availability to have insurance in place. God forbid there's a catastrophic event. What happens if a hurricane? What happens if there's a fire? How if there's water damage? Even if you're 30 or 70, you have to have the funds to be able to rebuild that, right? On that total loss. And most people are not self-insured to have $200,000-$300,000 to do a repair in a house to be self-insured, whether you're 30 or 70. Really, the best advice I could tell you, if you own a condo or a home at any age, you want to have the right protection on that product, on that homeowner product, because you're going to have building cost, you're going to have repair cost, the cost of everything has increased, and your deductibles are pretty standard. You can mitigate cost by raising your deductible. That means if you raise your deductible, you're responsible for the beginning of that claim, and then the portion over that is the insurance company's responsibility that you're paying for. So you can mitigate your cost of premium by raising your deductible, but not necessarily by age. I really think whether you're 30 or 70 or 50, whatever stage of life you're in, you sit down and you really review your homeowner's product with your agent. And if you need flood insurance, that's something in Florida. I'm really strong on that. I don't know the statistic if most of our viewers are even aware of it. 25% of flood claims that are made in Florida are in non-flood zones.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a powerful thing is to consider it.
My question is, because we're bringing up flood, but I wanted to ask you, in like elevation wise, is there like a statistic on that? Because like in my area, we're like 16 feet above the sea level.
Right.
So you would figure 16 feet is pretty, I consider it pretty high.
Most of the consumers feel the same way. The flood maps have been changed. They're changed every few years. They got changed again. There's been a lot of mapping. A lot of people, feel that they're never going to have a problem.
All right.
However, we do see, like I said, 25% are not so-called in a flood mapping zone. From FEMA, from the federal government.
All right.
I'm almost starting to think everywhere in Florida could become a potential flood zone.
Exactly.
You should really consider it. The cost has escalated in flood because the claims have been escalated in the last few years based on what we saw hurricanes on the west coast of Florida. You saw what happened in the Fort Myers area last year.
Right.
So it is something you should consider. It averages about $1,500 for a policy. I will tell you, 10 years ago, it was probably like $400 or $500.
Right.
So there is a cost. Now, if you buy through the federal program, through FEMA, it's $250,000 building coverage. So that will cover your structure. Okay. And then contents, if you need that inside the flood policy, is $100,000. If you're considering you feel you want more coverage than that, there are private insurers that we do as well. We do shop it, and you can get more coverage for flood. It is sometimes it can be a little bit less expensive with a private insurer than even with FEMA. But years ago, now Citizens put in a legislative rule is that if you're in a flood zone, you have to have a flood policy, even if you don't have a mortgage, because the bank's not requiring you to carry it. You have to carry it to have a policy with Citizens. That's how important they felt it was based on the claim activity that was happening after a storm. It's legislative would be like, who pays for that? Is that a homeowner or is it a flood? Rising water, or was it caused by the storm from wind damage and the rain came through? So these are things that you have to sit down with your agent and consider having these conversations, looking at your budget, but also protecting. Usually, most people's number one asset is their home.
I have a two-part question. Here we go. Are you ready for this?
And I hope I'm answering some of these questions.
Yes, definitely. You're doing a great job. Okay. The next question that I have is, let's say comparables in real estate right now. Let's say you have $1 million home, but this is why it's a two-parter. What happens if the house is flooded? Okay. Right. But is that okay? It's covered, but it doesn't affect the building. Does that cover does it just cover? Because I see a lot of places they only replace like 3 feet down.
It's really good questions. I mean, these are really good questions.
Because I'm like, that's the number one question, because let's say if you have $1 million home, that's actually for the price of the whole property.
Right.
It's not for the actual home.
Correct.
Okay. So when do you know that even though it's concrete structure, is it a safe structure anymore? Especially some of these homes that are already 60, 70 years old.
Right.
And how do you account for the cost? Because a lot of people says, oh, I only want a policy on the actual rebuilding of it.
Right.
Who makes that decision?
Right.
Where do you know, because that would be like my concern.
And these are good concerns. These are the questions we get in our agency. I have a team. I've been doing this 25 years. I have a team of 10, and we field these conversations every day with our clients. We do reviews. What you just asked, and I'll get to answering this, is it's probably 3 or 4-fold. Is property, it gets a little complicated with a homeowner's policy. Some people just think, it can go and just decide what I want to have and take it. But then when something happens and there's a claim, they're not sure, like you just mentioned, what's going to be covered. So with homeowners, it's a very good question. You don't, the insurance company, the carrier is going to insure you to build that structure back, what it costs today, at today's cost, to build that structure, make you whole. God forbid there's a total loss. It does back out the land. Okay. The land can't, from a monetary standpoint, really can't be ruined. The land is the land. So if you have $1 million house, we will look at, there's called a rating factor. It's a cost replacement estimator. You can get a policy with replacement cost on the structure or actual cash value. Same with contents, replacement cost and cash value. So you can choose that. Premium, that does affect premium. So these are, again, back to all the conversations you want to have with your agent. If you're not having those, please reach out and make a phone call today after hearing this to review it. Back to the structure. If you have $1 million house, and let's just say the land is worth $200,000, they're going to replace that structure. They're going to insure you up to the value of $800,000. Now, how they do that? They look at square footage. They look at square footage against today's building cost. They look at actual replacement costs of that. They look at quality. Do you have upgraded kitchens? Do you have high-end appliances and flooring and baseboards and all this crown molding and all this construction high-end is going to make the replacement cost higher than a basic house, which is nothing wrong with a basic house,
right.
But then you don't have to insure it as much. Backs out the land, so you don't want to get overinsured. I have clients, sometimes I've seen policies come from other sources and they're overinsured because your value to sell your house is $1 million. You don't insure the house for $1 million. Again, you're going to back out that land. Now, in the structure, because you don't want you to overpay for premium. That's an important thing. Things are costly already. Now, replacement costs for actual cash value, let's take contents. That's your belongings inside. Some people want all replacement costs. TV costs $800 today. I want $800 if it gets destroyed. Some people have a 10-year-old TV. They're like, I'll just do actual cash value, but you only might get in a claim situation if that TV's ruined $100.
Right.
Now, actual cash value will cost you less for the policy. The premiums are less. So you have to make an economic decision based on risk versus reward. And that's what insurance is covering yourself to protect yourself for the future. But you can self-insure some of that. So that's something that you have to look at too with contents. I have a lot of customers. I'll give you a real quick example. I have a nice retiree lady. She's probably 80 years old. She's in a $5 million house, but she didn't want replacement cost on the contents. Her furniture and her belongings she felt was nice, but they were 30, 40 years old. So we did actual cash value on the contents. The structure's replacement, $5 million place, but the contents we only did for $100,000. That's all she wanted. And she did it at actual cash value to keep her premium down. So if there was a total fire, she wasn't concerned about the inside materialistic stuff, the contents, her furniture and lamps and things like that. It was the structure she was concerned with. So these are things like, I hope I that answered.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are things we really want to take a hard look at.
All right. Well, the next one I'm going to go with is something that, you probably have heard 1,000 times, the roof. The roof.
The roof is on fire.
That's right. So, that was like a huge thing back. I remember I'm so old when Hurricane David.
You're not old.
But tell me, the roofs, what's really going on now with the roof?
Great question.
And especially I've seen so many of the metal roofs,
Right.
and some people say, those last forever, but they don't last forever with 150, 60 mile per hour
Right.
wind when you have a hurricane. So tell us about the roofing when it comes, and can you actually just have a roof insurance?
Right. These are great questions. Let's talk a little bit about that. There's been some reform with that, and there's been a lot of talk around that. Oh, if I have a 20-year-old roof, I can't get insurance. That's not the case. Okay. So there's been some reform that's from a legislative standpoint, which is good, is that the carriers have to give you an opportunity to get a roof certification. So if you got an older roof, if you get a certified inspector out there, and he can do what's called a roof certification. If you have 5 years left of life or more, there's no problem getting a policy. It gets a little complicated if you got less than a year left on wear and tear. Mm-hmm. So if it's got some issues there, you're probably going to have to look at some roofing upgrades to make sure your insurance can stay intact. Okay. So with roofing, then there's cost involved: shingle versus metal versus barrel tile. All types of roofing gets a different cost factor. There are some benefits to obviously when you upgrade your roof and get the latest roofing and the latest straps and the latest clips and all that in there. In actually in the roofing portion of it, it does affect premium in a better way if it's new. Now, they also require the carriers that you give them what's called, and your agent gets involved in that, is a windstorm mitigation. It's called the Uniform Windstorm Mitigation Inspection. The same certifier certification can do that for a roof certification. That can mitigate costs, meaning you can bring it down. So you want to get that. So if you have a policy in place for 3-4 years and you've done some upgrades to the roof and your carrier has not requested a new windstorm mitigation, or you haven't spoken to your agent, he hasn't reached out and done a review, you should reach out and say, do I need a windstorm mitigation inspection? They're about $100, $150. They'll save you thousands on a policy. A new roof could save you 20, 30% on your premium, if not more. Not more.
Now I'm going to ask you the question you've gotten 2 million times. Why is it that the actual customer that has been with you for a while have to pay for that mitigation?
Right. Good point. It's something that it's just the carriers don't absorb that cost. They put the burden on the consumer. I know
that's one of those things that
I get that asked all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, why am I? And because I've gotten a letter before. Oh, you're gonna have to get this, and if you want insurance, you're gonna have to actually pay for it. And I'm like,
right, and it's a valid question. It's just something they don't absorb that cost. They just put all that burden back on the consumer to say, you prove to the carrier what your house is about, basically. Certify it because it's licensed and they know it's certified in a claim situation. And these certifiers, they cost about $150. I don't have a true answer for it.
No, I know, but that's why I'm in the same boat. You're my buddy. That's why I got you here. I want the real answer.
I had to pay for it too. Mine. I just did one too. I just did a new mitigation because I switched carriers to save money too.
Right.
Within I get my own team to look at my policy as I do for all our clients. Sometimes I forget to do my own.
And do you, by chance, get a lot of leads from people that get letters like that try and get?
Yeah.
And do they have to actually try and get? Will your company sometimes accept give an insurance policy without that?
No. Well, coming in, we'll always ask for a current.
Always.
That's the first thing. The first thing my team will ask is, do you have coverage in place? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times now, if you don't have coverage and you go to get coverage, a 30-day wait. Same with flood insurance. So that was a good point that you just brought up, made me think about it. So those are the questions that we will ask. What do you have coverage in place? If not, we got a 30-day wait. So do you have coverage in place? Great. If you want to send us your deck page, you can. We don't look the match coverage.
What's the deck page?
Deck page is the actual declaration page of your policy, as all your coverages and your premium.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll ask for that if they want to provide it, but we're not really worried about what they have. We want to know what they need.
Okay.
So that's important. And then from there, we do ask for a windstorm mitigation inspection. If it's flood, we do ask for an elevation certificate. You have your old one. Let us look at that. We'll put that in the system. Let's get the credits needed. So we want to get you the best coverage at the best price for you. Okay. And that's our motto. That's something that we advise.
Exactly.
Our team is all about giving the right advice.
Yeah, you always ask about if you're a techer, are you this, a police officer? You always
absolutely
have special codes that you guys give.
I will tell you, my team is so experienced. I got staff with me over 15, 20 years. And they are as knowledgeable, if not better and more knowledgeable than me.
Yeah.
Sometimes as the owner, you get, they're dealing with it every second, every day
Yeah.
with our clients, and I do too, but not to the degree that they do. They're fabulous, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the Esterson Insurance Group, obviously.
Since we're talking about it,
Yeah.
what's something that you recall that it would qualify for a discount, like just based on profession?
On profession, for military,
Mhm.
especially on the auto side, we have a lot of discounts for military. We don't necessarily have anything for first responders in the insurance industry. They haven't really put a lot with that. Military is a discount. They don't hold a lot of discount for really careers as much anymore. Different types of things, and the discounts are all really into the product.
Right, like the windows.
Yeah. Impact window. Well, back to the mitigation inspection. Right. So there are a lot of discounts that get put in there as the alarm systems. Right. Do you have alarm system?
Really?
If you schedule jewelry, if it's in a safe, you're going to pay less on scheduled jewelry. That's another talk about homeowners. But on impact windows are a big savings, and it's called Class A.
Okay.
So when you do a windstorm mitigation, it's not just looking at roof; it's also looking at hurricane. So glad you brought that up. That's the other piece of the mitigation inspection.
And,
so
and shutters still
shutters qualify if it's every opening though. The caveat of that is I've had customers upset. Every shutter is in place, but they have a skylight on the front door.
Oh yeah,
and you got to get that covered. It's all or nothing.
Right.
The carriers want all or nothing, and I do understand it. Now, from a consumer standpoint, I also see why they get upset, but I do see the carrier's point. So you work with the agent, say, look, let us help you with it.
Yeah, it's the weak link.
Yeah. Let us help you with it.
What if you have both? Because I have both. I have some areas I have shutters, like I have huge sliding glass doors.
Okay.
And I have the old accordion.
So you got both.
I got both.
You should be getting Class A. You should be getting
okay.
That's something. You make sure we look at your
at the policy.
You make sure we need to look at it. Make sure you're getting Class A.
Oh.
Class A is all openings are protected by the Miami-Dade County Code based on after Hurricane Andrew. So the viewers that have been around down here,
Right.
well, I was down here during here. I was born in Miami, and Andrew changed a lot of the laws with that, and they're still in place today.
Wow.
So which is great.
I'm still traumatized with David.
Yeah, I know, right? You're going back.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, I'll never forget that. I was in junior high when that happened.
Yeah. Well, now you're dating me. Now I feel old. I got to look at the gray hair. So,
listen,
but we're
let's not use the word gray.
Right. Tinted.
There we go.
It's we're wiser.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper.
We're wiser.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully we're wiser.
Live and learn, right?
Yes, for sure. And I'm hoping this helps.
Definitely. Okay. Well, I'm going to go with one more thing. Solar panels on the roof.
Okay.
Because I've seen so many solar panels go up in the last 5 years in South Florida, including my neighborhood. It's incredible.
Yeah.
There's a
big thing.
There's a thing going on.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a positive.
So is that covered?
Yeah, the carriers you have to do an endorsement. You got to you should let your insurance agent know when you're writing that policy that you have them. I will tell you, the insurance carriers sometimes they're bright. So sometimes a customer won't tell an agent, and the office doesn't tell the carrier because they don't have the knowledge. They don't know. You might not have that in the agency you're dealing with. They will do their own inspections, and don't get offended or get some customers get a little offended. But when you write a new policy, and let's say it's with Esterson Insurance, let's use an example. I'm just using a name. They will send out their own inspector. They do a drive-by, and sometimes they want to visualize to see if the house looks okay. And what they're looking for is, some people get all upset with it. You don't have an eyesore. You don't have a refrigerator in the middle of the house. You don't have a fence around your pool. That's a liability issue. Do you have solar panels or not? If you do want to let the insurance company know there's an endorsement, and they are covered. They are covered, which is important because they're expensive.
No,
they're damaged.
Yeah.
So you do want to now there are a few isolated insurance carriers that don't cover the solar panels, very few left now. So it's important that you tell your agent when you're binding a new policy or getting a quote that you have them. So you don't have to wait till after the inspection, and then there's a cancellation, or you're not happy with the policy, and then we have to do a new policy. And then it's too much frustration for the insured, for the client.
And I'm going to get a little technical. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Because these things are popping in my
that's
head.
fine.
You got 10 solar panels.
Okay.
5 fly away.
Right.
What's covered?
Well, I mean, that's going to fall into I don't even know if
they're not going to be, let's say the other 5.
Right.
are not available, the same model.
That's a problem. Then that becomes an issue. That becomes a claims issue, how the policy is written with each carrier. Usually they will look to accommodate and settle that based on if they can't get the replacement and it can't work, then they're going to have to replace the whole thing. They're going to have to replace the whole thing. And that's more of a claim. Now, that's going to vary from carrier to carrier. I'm not licensed claims adjuster, but we would be your advocate to make sure the front end we're doing the best we can, so you don't have these. So it's a good question,
definitely.
But that I might have to.
That's why you have to ask your agent. Exactly,
and we might go to our claims
and
representatives for that.
Exactly,
which we do.
Right,
we do it with the auto coverages and home. All the time we get questions from our clients, and my role is not just to guess, is to go back to our claim partners and give you the right answers. And that's what I want our viewers to make sure they're doing with their agencies now, with their agents. Do that, please. I encourage it.
Okay. The last thing I'm going to ask you is about condos, because a lot of stuff's going on with condos now. So what can you tell us? Because pretty much it's the building, but I'm talking about do you want to put accordion shutters, impact windows?
Okay, great question. So condo insurance is probably the most volatile in a claim situations. That's rising cost. Believe it or not, we've seen some spike in homeowners, and now we're starting to see a little comeback as we talked earlier in the segment, which I'm very happy about. Condo insurance is still it's still up there in cost. A lot of the claims come from water damage within these units, the pipes inside. A lot of these buildings in South Florida are older, in Miami and such. And not that they're bad, but the piping is old. You have a lot of snowbirds, you have a lot of secondary residencies, and you're going to have pipes that burst or things that happen, water heaters or toilets, shower pans up top in units. If you have floors, people above you, and they don't even know what's happening. And then it's too late to mitigate it. The water damage has happened. You got to get drywall out. And then it gets into who's responsible, right? You just mentioned this. So let's talk a little bit about that. Who's responsible? Condo insurance is a little different than auto insurance. Auto insurance in the state of Florida, you got to carry an auto insurance. And of course, we do a lot of auto insurance at Esterson Insurance Group. At a condo, you're responsible for your interior walls. So if you touch your walls, I always say the best way to do is you touch your interior walls and shake it, and everything inside is yours. You're responsible. The association pays for the structure outside that you mentioned and out. Okay, the walls out, the paint. Okay, so to answer your question, when you get condo insurance, you really want to self-insure and get condos. I have a lot of clients out there that have auto with me. They live in condos and we've explained it to them, but they don't want the interior coverage. The building covers it. Well, the building's only covering, like I said, the structure, their paint on their outside walls and out, but not your paint in is not covered. So for that, if a unit above you has water damage, and they're not technically responsible for that. You're stuck if you don't have insurance. You could try. The building looks at the pipes and out, and they fight the pipes. That's a big thing. Who's going to cover what?
All right.
So cost, is escalated with claims because there's a lot with condos. So condo insurance used to be $500, $600, $700 a year. We don't see that in South Florida anymore. Average policy is probably about $1,500 on a condo.
Wow.
For an average.
And for the beach, I'm sure it's even more.
And when you get water access, it gets more. Now, you asked me about should you do shutters or what? Yes. If you get a condo policy and you have, again, you can get that inspected from your window, you're responsible, or you shutter that sliding glass door with a Class A, or you put an impact window, you will get a discount. You could do a windstorm mitigation for your condo, just like a home, as we mentioned earlier in the segment.
Okay.
So, and it will bring down the premium. So you should.
Yeah, definitely.
You should,
definitely.
Especially if you live on the east side of town and you're in a wind pool. East of I-95 is still considered that's where the risk is.
Right.
So, especially with hurricane season coming up, I encourage people getting condo insurance. I know a lot of people. You're not mandated to do it. Right. Usually, even banks don't require it. Some banks do now on mortgages. So, if you have a mortgage that you could or you couldn't, it's different than a house. If you don't have a mortgage, which a lot of our senior people retired don't have mortgages anymore, which is a beautiful thing.
All right.
But it's their asset, and they should have condo insurance. They really should look into it.
Awesome. Well, Jay, we've reached the end of our
interview
today. Yeah, it always goes quick.
I hope this is helpful.
Yeah,
to the viewers.
Definitely.
I really do.
So before we go, I just want you to go over there and tell them actually, I got the number right here. If you guys want to get a quote or you have any questions on your policy and you want to get some, some information from Jay and his fantastic group, it's 1-800-670 3763, and just tell them Disco George sent you. And, they'll hook you up and they'll give you a fantastic deal, because I'm telling you, he's always taking great care of me, and his staff is A1. They're always pick up the phone. They're there for you. It's not one of these people that you call and you're on hold for 20 minutes. Somebody's going to pick up that phone real quick for you.
I appreciate it. First of all, yeah, I mean, if I can help out anybody out there, please reach out to our office. We will, even if you don't do business with us, we will give you the right advice. Call my experienced staff. We have a staff of 10 people. They're dynamite. I'm obviously biased. They're outstanding. And like George says, in today's age, nobody picks up the phone to have a conversation about important things. We do. We will answer your calls. You're dealing with a local agent, local office. We'll be able to help you out. And if anything, call us for the advice, get a quote. If it doesn't work out with us, that's okay. That's okay. You'll go back and get some good information for who you're dealing with. It might be a better situation or it might not. We're here for you.
That's right.
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah. And they do auto, RV, motorcycle, boat. So
yeah, we do it all. We're all personal lines, and we've been doing this 25 years. Bundle your home and auto. You get a savings for that. Call us. Call my team. We would love to help you.
Thank you, guys. If you enjoyed the video today, please give me a like. And if you really enjoyed it, please share it with all your friends. Have a good one.